And now we are going to talk about nutrition. As we stated earlier, we have Kristen Johnson. I believe she's in the room. She's been with us before at previous MESSA Wellness Conferences. Kristen Brogan is an international keynote speaker, best-selling author, registered dietitian, superfood chef, yoga instructor, and the chief mindful living officer at On Target Living. And On Target Living is here in East Lansing, very near us. It is a health and performance company helping people discover the power of living their best and feeling their best. Kristen works with organizations all over the world to help make a business strategy, a healthy business strategy. Kristen's message is centered on expanding human capacity through mindful living. Kristen energizes and motivates her audiences to live healthy without making sacrifices and teaches a lifestyle that blends mindful eating, we mentioned that, mindful moving, mindful resting to build the whole self. Help me welcome Kristen Brogan to the space today. Come on through, Kristen.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. It's so good to be back. I love talking to this group. Hopefully today we'll talk about nutrition. We'll tie some things together and I'll provide you with a little bit of education behind food and eating. But really the goal today is to have a little bit more fun and bring some fun into our life. I know we're all kind of feeling isolated and we have COVID fatigue and we're just, we have a lot of uncertainty right now, but I want to give you some hope and just tell you that, this will end at one point and, we don't have to get back to normal. We can get back to better. And I think sometimes that starts with just taking care of ourselves and practicing great self-care. But I think food is a really big piece of that. And I wanted to make food fun today. I think when we think about food, it's social. We know that we've kind of lost our social life right now. And I know being quarantined, the number one way to make life fun was through food and snacking and eating and cooking more meals at home. So I think, some of us maybe are out of our routine and maybe we're snacking a little too much. So today, hopefully this will provide you with a little bit of structure around eating. Now, when we think about food, it's our universal language. We all talk food, but unfortunately, we don't all talk food the same, especially when we're eating over 90,000 meals in our lifetime on average. So much of our world is centered around food, but we're just not understanding food the way that we should. Now, instead of eating for weight loss or to be healthy, we really want to start to make food an experience. That's how we can have fun with food. And that's how we can also achieve our goals when it comes to food. So we're not stressing so much about the eating process. Now, unfortunately, food and eating have become very confusing because we have social media, we have all these diets on the market. We're very confused by this. We're following these gluten-free diets and we don't even know what gluten is. All we know is that someone told us gluten makes us fat and we should avoid it. But many people don't understand it. You're buying a turkey for Thanksgiving, it's saying gluten-free. Of course it's gluten-free, right? Or we're buying cereal that says 0 cholesterol. Well, cholesterol comes from animal products. We're not understanding kind of the food that's on the market right now. And today, hopefully we can simplify some of this. We know that there's a ton of diets. There's over 50,000 diet books on the market. There's always a new diet on the market. But when you think about it, diets are so not sexy. The word diet is not sexy. No one wants to be on a diet. No one wants to be told what they shouldn't be eating. We know what we shouldn't be eating. We know we should be eating more plant-based foods, fruits and vegetables, and if we're eating meat, we don't have to give up meat, but the meat we're eating should probably be better quality, or maybe we're eating less meat. So we all know what we should be doing, but it's all about what we practice. It's not what we know, it's what we do. But when you think about a lot of these diets on the market, our paleo diet, our keto diet, they're not much different than the Atkins diet. These diets are just reintroduced in a new way to make us feel like they're different. But you have to step back and say, well, why are there so many diets on the market? Why is there always a new diet, every year? It's because they don't work. So let's stop following these diets that maybe work temporarily, but not long-term. That's what we want. We want a long-term fix. We don't want to stress about the eating process because, people aren't talking about this, but when we're stressed, we can't digest. So if we're stressed because we know that we shouldn't be eating a certain food, or we're saying no to dessert when we're with all of our friends and we're stressed about the whole experience, then it's going to take away from our ability to process the food that we're eating. So we know that food has a lot to do with our mood and the gut-brain connection and all these different things involved. So I think when it comes to diets, we have to understand they don't work because they're not sustainable and they're not enjoyable. When we find a program that we should stick with, it should be enjoyable. The whole process should be sustainable. So today that leads me into helping you to find more balance when it comes to food. You know, we live on these two extremes when it comes to food. Either we live on the extreme side of healthy, where we're constantly on a diet, we're giving up the things that we love, we're taking the fun out of food. You know, we give up our social life, and then we say, you know what, this is too hard, this is too extreme. I'm going to go back to my old ways, and I'm going to live on the extreme side of unhealthy, where we sacrifice our health and our performance. We take the fun out of life. We struggle with our health. We get on medications, right? So we know that these extremes will never work. No one wants to give up the things that they love, and no one truly wants to live unhealthy, because we know that if we're unhealthy, we're not going to feel good, and all of us want to feel good. So we have to find more balance when it comes to food, and this comes down to being a more mindful eater. So today I'm going to teach you some simple tips for being a mindful eater that will help you to never be confused when it comes to food again, and also have more fun when it comes to food. Now, while the science of nutrition is always changing, there's one thing that will never change when it comes to food, and this is the first rule of mindful eating. That one thing that will never change is our common sense. We all have this intuition when it comes to food. It's never wrong. So if we're following a diet where we can eat as much bacon as we want, or as much protein as we want, but we can't eat a bowl of oatmeal, what does our common sense tell us? That makes no sense, right? So we need to tap into that intuition when it comes to making choices. Mindful eating is about eating in a way that makes you feel healthy and happy. You're not eating certain foods because you have to. You're eating certain foods because you want to, and because you like the way it makes you feel. If you're following a no carb, low carb diet, you're not going to feel good, right? You may lose weight, but you're going to be constipated. Your hair's probably going to be dry and maybe falling out. You're not going to feel your best self. You're not going to have energy, because carbs are our energy source. And when we start restricting something, then we become deficient in other things. So a lot of people don't understand that carbs stimulate serotonin. They make us feel good. They help us with digestion. They're high in calming magnesium, which we're finding right now that a lot of people who experience anxiety and depression and have issues sleeping, they're deficient in magnesium, which is the first mineral to become depleted when we're stressed. Carbs like ancient grains and potatoes and root vegetables and fruits and vegetables, these are all really great for boosting magnesium and serotonin and making us feel good. So let's put this mindful eating rule into practice. Now, if we start using our common sense more when it comes to dropping a whole stick of butter in our coffee, does that truly make sense, right? A lot of people are doing these crazy diets or these extreme fixes, but we know that quick fixes, they will never work. And when you use your common sense, this makes no sense. There's no nutritional value to dropping butter in your coffee. If you love butter, just eat butter, put it on toast or enjoy it on something that's actually worth it. You don't have to drop it in your coffee. Now, we also know when we use our common sense, it really doesn't make sense to count calories anymore. Calories are not created equal. I think we can all kind of get behind that. We know 100 calories of broccoli does not do the same in the body as 100 calories of chocolate cake. So we need to instead of looking at calories or counting things, we need to look at food quality. Now, the number one indicator of food quality is ingredients. So whatever it is that you eat the most of, start to make it better, start to improve the quality simply by looking at the ingredients. You don't have to look at the carbs or the protein or the fat or the calories. You're reading the ingredient list, because if you can pronounce the ingredients, you know it's real food. You know when you put the right ingredients in your body, it knows what to do. And that's one of the things I teach people who are trying to lose weight. Let's stop counting calories, because it's just another form of dieting. The number one thing you can do for weight loss is improve ingredients. If you're eating a 5-ingredient peanut butter, switch to a 1-ingredient peanut butter. If you love, Doritos that have 98 ingredients, switch to a better chip. You can find delicious potato chips that only have 3 ingredients: potatoes, sea salt, and a good quality oil like avocado oil or a coconut oil or a extra virgin olive oil. So whatever it is you eat the most, don't give it up. Today, I'm not telling you to give anything up. You're just improving the quality. I have a 2-year-old son. He's seen what his friends at daycare are eating, right? They're eating crackers and chips and fruit snacks. I don't have to give up those things, or he doesn't have to give up those things. I'm just finding ways to make them better. So we're doing organic cheddar bunnies instead of goldfish, or organic fruit snacks, or things that have better quality ingredients, cereals that don't have artificial colors. So really make sure you're looking at the ingredients when it comes to food. It's number one indicator of quality. And if you can't pronounce something, if you can't read it, don't eat it. Now, we also, when it comes to our common sense, we know that we should probably avoid anything fake. There's this new craze about plant-based burgers. We don't need to eat these fake foods that look like a burger and taste like a burger and bleed like a burger. They're so far from real food. And all you have to do is look at the ingredients and you'll know many of these plant-based burgers have over 20 ingredients, all of which are genetically modified. These burgers are also made in a lab by a scientist. They're not real food. I know a lot of people are following these plant-based diets, or they're vegans, and they're eating even worse foods than they ever have before, because a lot of these vegan foods are more processed. When you're removing gluten, if you're doing a gluten-free product or a packaged gluten-free item, you're going to have to add something else in there. So if we can kind of use our common sense to navigate this world, like I mentioned, we probably could all eat less meat and just make the meat that we're eating better quality. Find organic sources, go to the farmer's market, but staying away from these foods that aren't real foods. Now, there's also this whole craze about fasting right now and intermittent fasting. And fasting can be very beneficial, but I find that it's more sustainable if you do a common sense fast, which means you're fasting during the nighttime hours. You're not eating during the periods of time where you're sleeping, and you're eating when you're awake. So just making it simple. We at On Target Living love recommending a 12 to 14-hour fast overnight. So if you're eating dinner at 7:30 p.m., ideally you don't want to eat anything until 7:30 a.m. So that's something that's a little bit more sustainable when it comes to fasting. Many times people who are doing fasting during the day, they're going to be deficient in certain nutrients because they have such a limited window of eating. So another thing I recommend people for weight loss is this 12 to 14-hour fast overnight. Not eating after dinner is one of the best things you can do for weight loss. So just sticking more to this common sense fasting that correlates with your circadian rhythms, which we heard in the last session. So you're just eating when you're awake and you're not eating when you're asleep. So just making it simple. Now, I love sharing this food target. We developed this food target on Target Living many years ago, but I like to call it a mindful eating guide. So using this moving forward, you're not giving anything up. You're just making everything better as you go towards the center of this food target, which you can find on our website, ontargetliving.com. You can print out a PDF. We also have laminated copies you can put on your refrigerator. So just making sure you have this guide. We're talking about a lot of things here, but this will be a good guide to kind of help you move forward. Now, what all these foods in the food target, in the center of the food target, have in common, and this is the second rule of mindful eating, is they're all close to the source. So when it comes to mindful eating, you want to choose foods as close to the source as possible. And this is where we can take all the confusion out of food. Is it healthy? Is it unhealthy? Nothing's off limits when it's from the source. Think about foods that are in their most natural state. So fish, even good quality meats, nuts, vegetables, fruits, seeds, all these things that are in their most natural state, where we know they're going to be the most nutritious for us. They're going to be the most affordable, which is, a lot of people think that eating healthy is too expensive. And when you're eating foods closest to the source, think nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, things like that, even peanut butters. You don't have to spend a lot of money. And we know it's not too expensive to eat healthy. It's too expensive to get sick. So just kind of reframing the way that we're thinking when it comes to food. So this is how the source concept works, and this is what you can take with you forever. No matter what diet hits the market, this source concept will always bring you back to kind of that main point of eating. Now, foods closest to the source, as I mentioned, they're in their natural state, they're loaded in nutrients, nothing's off limits when it's from the source. There's nothing wrong with fruits, especially if they're from the source. We know that an apple is the first source, it falls from the tree, it's loaded in nutrients. We know it's going to be good for us. It's also a live food. So there's a lot of differences between a live food that you bite into and it starts to rot or brown. Those are full of probiotics and prebiotics. That's what helps our digestion, our gut health, our immune system. Dead foods are anything that are in a package or a bar or a supplement or a pill. We want to go more towards those live foods. Where we run into issues is when we get further and further away from the source. So instead of eating an apple, what do? We eat applesauce that comes in a package. Doesn't mean it's unhealthy, it's just not loaded in nutrients like an apple. And we're probably gonna overconsume it. That's where we run into some of these issues, right? More processing involved, we're probably gonna overconsume these things like apple juice. We know that we take out all of the fiber, and that's why we feel like we're drinking all these empty calories that doesn't really fill us up. And the source concept can go on and on and on. You have apple pie, apple jacks, you have hard apple cider. People are taking apple cider vinegar shots. You can get the same benefits plus more just from eating an apple. So always going back to the source concept. And when it comes to supplements, a lot of people will say to me, well, what about this new supplement? Apple cider vinegar gummies or this multivitamin. You have to understand that we don't eat nutrients, we eat food. We don't want to eat our vitamin C in a tablet. We want to get it from real food. It's going to be way more affordable, and the body can't digest or process foods, nutrients in their isolated form. So going back to the source. Now here's another example of the source, just so you guys kind of understand how this works. There's nothing wrong with potatoes or healthy carbohydrates. There's no coincidence that we have the highest rates of depression right now, and our most popular diet is a low-carb diet. We're not eating foods that make us feel healthy and happy, especially when I mentioned that a lot of these carbohydrates boost serotonin. Now, in order to feel happy, the body has to produce serotonin. 90% of serotonin is made in the gut through the foods that we eat. So sometimes we target these issues in our brain with a pill or a supplement when we want to really target our gut health. So eating foods that have pre and probiotics, eating healthy carbohydrates, using a lot of the foods in the center of the food target to boost serotonin naturally. So just understanding how the source concept works. So here's a little quiz for you. If I were to ask you if chocolate is healthy or not, what would your answer be? Hopefully you say it depends. It depends on the source. And you're right. As I mentioned, nothing's off limits if it's from the source. Is it raw chocolate that's called cacao nibs? It's loaded in calming magnesium, or is it a processed candy bar or chocolate bar, right? So nothing's created equal in this world. We have to go closer to the source, and everything can fit in our diet. We don't have to give anything up. My mother-in-law, I went shopping with her recently. She's a grandma of 3. She wanted to make pancakes. She was picking up this processed pancake batter in a box. And I said, there's no reason to have to sacrifice your health. You can get a healthier pancake mix that tastes just as good, if not better. Let's find an organic mix. Let's make our own. Just simple things that you can do to upgrade. There's no reason to have to do these unhealthy products. So as I mentioned, the gut-brain connection, this is a big deal right now. Food really impacts our mood. We're finding that people that experience anxiety also experience digestive issues or IBS. So getting a lot of these foods closest to the source found in the center of this food target will be essential for the gut-brain connection. So when we put the right foods in our gut, that stimulates serotonin, it makes us feel happy in the brain. So just understanding that food truly is medicine, and we have to think about food as medicine because it's been used as medicine for forever. Medicine can be very beneficial, but we also have to think about how we can fix some of our issues at the source, right? And how we can treat it with food rather than just treating the symptoms. We want to fix our issues at the source. Now, I know I've talked about this before if you've seen an On Target Living presentation, but I love to talk about 2 really powerful nutrients that most people are deficient in. It's not always about what we're eating, it's about what we're missing. There is no reason to supplement with any pill, multivitamin, if you get these 2 nutrients in your system. And by the way, these nutrients boost our immune system. They have everything you need from a nutrition standpoint. Omega-3s and chlorophyll. Those are the 2 nutrients you need to make sure you're eating every single day. 95% of our population is deficient in omega-3 fats. The most powerful form of omega-3 fats is a good quality cod liver oil. At On Target Living, we recently decided to source our own cod liver oil because we know where it comes from, we know the source, we know the quality, and ours has more vitamin D than any other fish oil on the market. The reason that cod liver oil is so beneficial is because it's loaded in vitamin D. Vitamin D directly boosts our immune system. It helps us absorb calcium. We don't need a calcium supplement if we're taking our cod liver oil. And 1 tablespoon gives you the recommended dose that you need versus 15 gel tablets that's further away from the source. So it's all about source and quality. If you want to learn more about our Target Living cod liver oil, we have it on our website. It's organic lemon flavor. It's super easy to consume. But the big things that omega-3s do for the body is it helps with brain health, hormonal health. Keep in mind, you can't lose weight unless your hormones are balanced, heart health, and it naturally lowers inflammation. So I find when I work with people, if they get a good quality cod liver oil into their system, they meet their omega-3 needs. Plus they're getting vitamin D. So many fish oils on the market, they will not contain vitamin D. You want to make sure you're getting a high source of vitamin D, and the #1 source is going to be cod liver oil. Now, the other nutrient most of us are deficient in is some form of chlorophyll. Now, chlorophyll is in anything green in color. So spirulina chlorella, that's a freshwater algae. That's one of the most powerful forms of chlorophyll. It comes in little tablet form. We also sell this on our website, and you just swallow with water. So 10 to 20 tablets is your daily serving. I think of this as my multivitamin. I give it to my 2-year-old. He chews it. I recommend adults swallow it because it is algae, so it can kind of taste like an algae if you imagine that. So swallowing that with water, but I find that's the easiest form of chlorophyll to get in. Spirulina chlorella, it's a freshwater algae. The other most powerful form of chlorophyll is wheatgrass, and this is loaded in minerals. Many of us are deficient in minerals because we're stressed. This uncertainty is making us stress. It's depleting our systems, right? We're not sleeping. We're having all these kind of health issues. Wheatgrass is loaded in more minerals than any other food, so it helps lower inflammation. It helps improve digestion. If you have acid reflux, it helps to balance your pH. I love both of these foods. I especially love spirulina chlorella because it boosts my immune system. It helps with energy. So I'm never stuck without this. I'm traveling next week, and you better believe I'll be taking my spirulina chlorella with me on the go. Wheatgrass comes in ice cube form, so you have to drop 3 ice cubes in a glass of water to consume, and I usually do that first thing in the morning. But again, we have a lot of this information on our website. You can always email me. I'll share my email at the end if you have any specific questions. But if you're getting these 2 nutrients, you don't have to supplement with anything. You're going to save so much more money when you get your nutrients from real food. Okay, into the cooking lesson, because, part of today is to make eating fun. And I think the most powerful form of mindful eating is with mindful cooking, and cooking in general and stimulating our 5 senses we do from cooking. I think sometimes when we're ordering pizza or we're ordering Thai or ordering takeout, that's okay to do, but we really want to start making more meals at home because we're going to feel more satisfied. When we stimulate all these senses, the less likely we are to overdo or overeat. I find that the times I'm in the kitchen, preparing a meal for my family, by the time I sit down, sometimes I'm already satisfied. The smells, the aromas, the act of cooking, all of that brings my family together, and that really helps me to, connect on a whole different level. So just understanding that getting healthier truly starts with cooking more meals at home. And my brother and I have a twin brother, Matt, who's also in the company. We put together this cookbook because it's all healthy and delicious meals that don't have to take you a lot of time. We're taking a lot of our traditional favorite things like chilies and spaghetti and, mac and cheese and all these things we love. And we're just making it healthier by getting better quality ingredients and cooking more meals at home. So one of my rules when it comes to cooking and eating is eat whatever you want as long as it's homemade. You know, my mom really taught me that at a young age. She taught me that food is love. You know, my dad came from this very kind of healthy background. He was a personal trainer, and I learned a lot about healthy food. But luckily, my mom helped me to put that into practice and show me that healthy food can actually taste delicious. And more than anything else, food is love. And I think that's a language that we can really understand, especially right now when we're cooking more meals at home. We really want to make this count. So thinking about how you can make a little bit, all the things that you love, just a little bit better. You know, you're making maybe burgers, you can make them out of ground bison or grass-fed beef, or you're using a better bun. Sometimes I use portobello mushroom caps as the bun, or I make French fries out of sweet potatoes, or recently I've been doing a lot of cauliflower pizza crusts or cauliflower stir fries, you know, instead of using rice, or just different ways to substitute. And I'm going to show you how to do some of that today. But just understanding getting healthier starts with cooking more meals at home. But thinking about the story of food, the big picture of food is that food is the ingredient that binds us all together. You know, we don't remember the things that we buy, but we remember the meals that we eat. I think right now I'm finding I don't need clothes. I don't need any fancy shoes. I'm not seeing that many people. But one thing I do want to spend my money on is good quality food, because I feel like I get an investment from that. I get something back, right? Because we don't want to put anything cheap or fake in our body, because we are what we eat. You know, we want good quality food that's going to impact our energy, that's going to give us a healthy glow. You know, we know looking at someone or talking with someone, we know if they're living a healthier lifestyle or not, right? Because that impacts our mood. But just understanding it's the story of food. That's the big picture. It's how it binds us all together. And food is love, it's connection, it's social. So today our story starts with making a coconut oil kettle corn. Now you're welcome to just follow along, or, you know, view the demo, or you can actually participate. So this is a really simple popcorn recipe. You don't need a lot of ingredients. I make this probably weekly for my family, because I find too, the smell of popcorn, it gets people in the kitchen. You know, if they don't want to sit down as a family, they will smell popcorn and they'll want to grab some. So we're going to start with cooking this. I'm going to preheat my pan. So again, you can follow along with me or just watch if you want. I just have a big pot here, and I'm going to add a little bit of coconut oil. I like to use coconut oil to make popcorn. I love the flavor of it. You can use coconut oil in place of butter. It's that same kind of consistency. It's a healthy saturated fat. We need fats, just depends on the quality. We still need saturated fats, but we need to get a good quality. And we love extra virgin coconut oil because it has a good taste, and you can use it as a replacement for butter or vegetable oils. And it's really great at boosting the immune system because it's antibacterial, antifungal, and it's got a lot of soothing digestive benefits. So I love, sometimes I'll give a spoonful to my son. I'll spread it on toast for him. So it's just a good way to, you know, especially if he's having some digestive issues or stomach issues, I love giving him just a spoonful of that. So I'm preheating the oil here. So we want it to get really hot. And then once the oil is hot, we're going to just add in popcorn kernels. I love just using organic kernels. I have just a mix of tricolored kernels. So it's black and red and yellow kernels. And I'm just going to throw that in. You want your pot to be medium high heat. You want it to be really hot. So let's just throw our kernels in there. And then I'm going to cover this, and I'm just going to let it pop on its own. Now, as the popping kind of settles and that noise slows down, then we're going to just remove it off the heat. We don't want it to burn. No one likes burnt popcorn, but the steam will start to create that, the kernels for popping. So we're just going to let that sit there. And I'm going to take you through our other recipe right now. It's banana ice cream. So if you got the recipe and the ingredients, you just needed to freeze bananas. So usually when bananas are going bad, I just peel them and then I throw them in the freezer. This banana ice cream I discovered several years ago, and my whole family is hooked. And it's kind of like a healthier version of frozen yogurt. It looks the exact same, way cheaper, way healthier. So I just have these frozen bananas, and I'm just going to slice them up. You want them to be good and cold here. I'm going to do 3 bananas because I'm going to share with I'm here in our On Target Living office, and I usually, when I do a cooking demo, I have to share with my team because, you know, food is love and it's just a nice thing to share. So I'm going to add this to a food processor. Now you could use a high-speed blender. I find that a food processor works really well. It's one of those tools you need in the kitchen. So I'm going to add all these bananas in there. Put the top on here. You'll see the bananas turn to kind of like a chunky consistency. You want to keep going. The blade will kind of warm the bananas up, and that's where you'll get that smooth frozen yogurt texture. Now, if you find you have a lot of bananas in here, you can put a little bit of water just to kind of break some of that up, the frozen consistency, especially if your bananas are super frozen. Give it a little stir. And then sometimes while I'm blending this, I'll put in almond butter, I'll put in peanut butter if you kind of like that taste here, but really you don't have to add anything because it's sweet as is. This is sweetness at the source, a good banana. Put a little more water in. And I can hear my popcorn popping. Yours should be popping too. And then while we're eating everything, we'll do a Q&A session. So if you have any specific questions, it'll be a good time to kind of dive in a little bit deeper. So you can see, if you can see here on the camera, you can see my bananas are starting to turn really creamy. You'll see that frozen yogurt consistency. Sometimes when I make this for my son, I'll get just natural sprinkles that have colors from blueberries or spirulina, just for fun. Remember, we have to make food fun, and it has to look good. It has to taste good, but it has to look good too. Just there. Looking good. Okay, and then I'll show you what this looks like here. You can see it looks just like ice cream. It's amazing. You could even throw in some frozen strawberries too, but again, the texture is just so perfect. And then again, you can add in some nut butters if you wanted to kind of give it a little bit more flavor. But usually what I like to do is just top it with a little bit of cacao nibs. So again, I mentioned we're going to turn my popcorn off because it stopped popping. We'll let it sit here for a second. And then I mentioned that cacao nibs are really high in calming magnesium. So right now, if you're trying to get magnesium in, don't take it in supplement form, get it from food. You can get it from nuts and seeds and leafy greens and wheatgrass, but cacao nibs, it's the raw form of dark chocolate. It's a great way to get in magnesium. So I usually like to just put a little bit on top of my banana ice cream. So there it is. It's super, super simple. Your family will love it. They won't even know it's not unhealthy, right? It's so delicious, and healthy and delicious can really go together. So here's our popcorn. It's smelling amazing. I'm sure my team is going to be running in soon. So I just put it in a bowl here. And because it has the coconut oil on it, it's going to have a lot of flavor. Usually I just top it with a little bit of sea salt. So again, when you're cooking, you want to make all of your ingredients better using good oils, using high quality sea salt. If you're using peanut butter, look at the ingredients. So simple ways, you know, you can make everything better. Even if I do pasta, I'm making sure I'm looking at the ingredients. I want an organic pasta that just has one ingredient. Usually it's called semolina durum wheat flour. Just simple, good quality pasta. You don't have to take any shortcuts. So a little salt on there. Now, if you wanted to make it a kettle corn version, both of these recipes are in the cookbook. You could drizzle agave nectar and cinnamon. So just different ways to kind of spice things up, but that took no time at all. And hopefully you made this at home and you can kind of munch on that as we're doing the Q&A session. So I'm going to open it up for question and answer. I find that this is the best part. Hopefully I gave you a little bit of education around food and kind of simplified it a little bit. So welcome to
Kristen,
take questions. I'll turn
yeah.
it back over to Rhonda, unless you want me to address some questions from
Well,
the
I have
chat.
some questions for you, Kristen. Can I
Great.
come down and get some popcorn? No, I'm just.
Come
My whole
on
thinking is
over.
like we're about to jump in the car and come get
Can
popcorn
you
right
smell it? Can you
now. Oh
smell it?
my gosh. So here's a question. Is there an amount of avocado that is too much?
You know, I find when it comes to the source, we're not really overdoing it. I mean, avocado, yes, we can. Guacamole, we could. But I find that even when I make guacamole and I serve it with a good quality tortilla chips, I'm not overdoing it. So I would say, you know, you kind of want maybe like a half avocado to a whole avocado. So sometimes I'll slice up a whole avocado for lunch. I'll put a little extra virgin olive oil, salt, and pepper. I'll serve it with sliced tomatoes, cucumbers, hummus, just a whole little platter. So I'd say don't worry about overdoing these high quality foods because most of the time they fill us up, they make us feel nourished and satisfied.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, is EVOO, okay to use to pop popcorn?
Yeah, you can use EVOO. I find that with extra virgin olive oil, you can't use that for high heat cooking. And sometimes popcorn, it is considered high heat cooking. I like to use coconut oil because it doesn't burn like an extra virgin olive oil would, or even avocado oil. So the three oils I use is EVOO. I use that pretty much for everything, sauteing chicken, cooking vegetables, drizzling on a baking sheet with vegetables and baking, or in salad dressings. With coconut oil popcorn, obviously I use coconut oil. I use coconut oil to make eggs a lot. I use it in place of baking, you know, in place of a butter. I made apple crisp yesterday and I just drizzled melted coconut oil on top of the kind of crumble mixture. And then avocado oil I use for high heat cooking, like stir fries. I also get these three oils in a spray. So if I need to spray a baking sheet or something, I know it's not going to add so much flavor. Some of these other vegetable oils add that kind of flavor to some of the cooking. But I'd say, yes, you could experiment with it, but I find it sometimes will burn a little bit easier than all these other oils.
Got it, got it. Okay, a list of uses of coconut oil. You've given us a couple with your last comment. Is there something in your cookbook or on your website where we can go and find out all the several uses of coconut oil?
Yeah, so the cookbook's great. It's called Target to Table, and you can get it on our website. But we have a whole chart of cooking oils, what cooking oils to use at certain temperatures. And many of our recipes have coconut oil in them. In fact, you know, the holidays are coming up. We have a sugar cookie recipe that is made with coconut oil, but also the frosting is made with coconut butter.
Wow.
So just different ways you can use it. You know, my dad started on Target Living. He would say one of his favorite things to use coconut oil for is for his skin. Because it is very good for skin health. You know, I think sometimes we think about what we're eating, but not what we're putting on our skin. So if we can't eat it, we probably shouldn't put it on our skin either, right? Because we're absorbing it. But there's a lot of products with coconut oil in it now because it is so good for skin. So I'd say baking, eggs, as I mentioned, I love over easy eggs with coconut oil. Even sometimes I'll pop kernels in a brown paper bag in the microwave and I'll drizzle melted coconut oil on there because sometimes I like that. It's kind of like movie theater popcorn where you have the oil on top. So
Excellent. So, okay, so here's a question. So I always use extra virgin olive oil. Is that bad for you?
nope, extra virgin olive oil is high in monounsaturated fat. So that's going to be great at lowering our blood pressure. So it's just a good heart healthy oil to use. So I'd say no. You just want to make sure when you're choosing olive oil, it says that extra virgin olive oil. You know, that's the first source, it's the first pressing, it's better quality. So absolutely not. I've been finding that I'm just more aware of the oils that I'm using in cooking. And I also don't need so much oil on everything. Right now I'm doing some cooking for a family and I'm just conscious of not drizzling olive oil on everything. You know, I love olive oil, but we don't need it, you know, in a lot of amounts, quantity. So there's a lot of ways you can make things without oil, even with grilling and things like that. But again, if
we're trying to manage our weight, probably.
yeah, and also it's just a matter of being aware and, you know, you're using probably oil enough as is. You can do a lot of cooking without it. But yeah, I mean, we definitely don't want to overdo the good stuff. But again, if you're using better quality stuff, you don't have to worry so much about overdoing.
Excellent. Any other questions for Kristen? This is great. I know I'm hungry now, and I plan
Lunchtime.
to pop some popcorn. Awesome tips. I'm looking in the chat, Kristen. Awesome tips, excellent information. You never fail us with the information you bring. We're so